Part 9. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 81. Whitebeard's fist clenched and he hit Chu Lan, who fell from the sky hard. He didn't know the man in the sky, but he already had a certain understanding of his strength. He was a great swordsman who was not weaker than Hawkeye my hawk. If such a great swordsman were to get close, even he would find it troublesome. Chu Lan is not the rookie that Skyard is. Therefore, Whitebeard took action decisively. The space suddenly shattered, and invisible vibrations traveled through the space and bombarded Chu Lan in the air. When the pirates below saw their father taking action, they all taunted loudly and excitedly. Being able to withstand the slashing blows of the world's best swordsman is already very strong, but it is still far behind compared to my father. He must have tried his best just now. There was no way he could withstand his father's attack. I just heard a navy calling his name. It seemed to be Chu Lan's hung. Could it be that he was a celestial dragon? Are the celestial dragons so powerful? Worthy of being a world noble? So what about the Tianlong people? Dad took action, and no matter who he was dead. The pirates were happy to watch the show, but the navy had a different mood. After experiencing Whitebeard's strength, no one among the ordinary soldiers thought that anyone could survive Whitebeard's attack. And knowing Chu Ian's real, the lieutenant generals with their identities were already in panic, especially a certain rat. Lord Chu Lan's hung. The flying squirrel roared, slashing the pirates in front of him crazily, and rushed towards Whitebeard desperately. The three generals, Aokiji and Kizaru, had already launched rescue operations simultaneously, and Akainu also stood up from his seat. However, Whitebeard's attack was too decisive, and the distance between the generals was too far. Coupled with the obstruction of the captains, there was no time to rescue him at this moment. The warring States Marshal stood on the high platform with a heavy look on his face. He only hoped that Chu Lan could block the world. A blow from the strongest man. However, he had no confidence at all, because he knew that although Chu Lan was very strong and fundamentally different from those Tianlong people, the gap was still too big compared to Whitebeard. "Let me go, brother Whitebeard, why do you just do it? I don't think you are this kind of person." Chu Ian's body is still falling uncontrollably. He has already felt the vibration coming from the space in front of him. Whitebeard's attack is unavoidable. He can only take it hard. Chu Lan pulled out Goiche speechlessly. "Fortunately, I was smart enough to trap a golden lion and only had one sword. It was really hard to withstand it today." Goite took out the sheath. Chu Lan held Tianguo in her left hand and Goiche in her right hand. She raised the two swords high above her head and pointed at him. Catching the shockwave that had arrived in front of him, he slashed violently. Hawkeye stroked his black sword, and stared at the double swords in Chu Ian's hands without blinking. As the world's recognized greatest swordsman, he is also one of the people who has owned the 12 skills of the Supreme Otaki for the longest time, and his familiarity with the Supreme Otaki can be said to be the best in the world. He can see that ordinary famous swords, whether they are so-called Otaki or something, much worse than the two knives in Chu Ian's hands. Two swords, the 12 skills of the Supreme Sword. Hawkeye sighed in admiration. "Amazing, let me see if your strength is worthy of them." Whitebeard looked at the Tianlong people who were attacking his shockwave, and grinned. "Young people are young, how can I use my shock fruit ability to resist with slashes?" Chu Lan didn't know what the people below were thinking. He in his eyes, there is only the knife in his hand. Domineering. Black knife. Invisible haki covers the blades, and the two supremely fast knives instantly turn into pitch black blades, colliding with the vibrating space in front of them. Haki can cause harm to people with natural fruits, and it can also deal with the abilities of devil fruits. Chu Lan only felt an incomparably powerful impact coming from the blade. The invisible impact collided with the tangible blade, and the space seemed to be distorted. Whitebeard's eyes suddenly shrank, a little surprised. Have you cultivated such a level of domineering? The young people today are really amazing. After saying that, he made a fist with his right hand again, pointed in the same direction, and punched harder. Boom! The dull sound of space vibration sounded again. This time, everyone was shocked. That Whitebeard actually took action a second time. Even when he was fighting General Qing Pheasant, he only made one move. How strong is that celestial dragon? No matter how strong you are, it's useless. Whitebeard's second attack is coming. He is dead. Akainu's body suddenly soared into the air, and his whole body turned into lava, flying towards Chulan in the air. During the first blow, he didn't want to save him and just let Chulan resign himself to his fate, but the second time Whitebeard took action, this time he didn't expect it. If he didn't take action at this time, Wulaoxing would definitely cause trouble for him, and his ambition to become a marshal might be shattered. However, even if he took action, the captain would also come forward. Stop! I can't let you interfere in Dad's battle. Hateful! Akainu punched the opponent back, but did not take another step forward. Although the opponent could only block him for a moment, in this moment, the chance to save Chulan was lost. After feeling the blow, after seeing the power contained in it, Chulan already knew that the power of this blow was completely within the range of his ability to withstand it. He took a deep breath and was about to break the impact, and then landed handsomely. He saw Whitebeard and raised his fist towards him again. Let me choke you, your fucking personality is wrong, Whitebeard, Chulan couldn't help shouting. Goo la 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 la, Whitebeard laughed wildly, boy, take my blow. Chulan gritted her teeth and couldn't help but feel a surge of anger in her heart. The labor and management were just going to watch a show and didn't want to interfere in your battle with the Navy. I also helped you deal with Hawkeye's slashing attack. Don't thank me. Forget it, why bother attacking me? You are just looking for trouble. In this case, don't blame me for disrespecting the elderly. Chulan stamped his feet in the air, and with the help of the impact, he jumped into the sky again. And under his feet, Whitebeard's two attacks successfully converged together, becoming more powerful, and the space was even visible to the naked eye. It began to break. Compared with the shockwave of the Big Bear, this was a deeper impact that directly acted on space. It was much more powerful. Chulan crossed his hands on both sides of his body, and his two swords were in a corner position. Look, with the superimposed impact getting closer and closer, the double sword slashed out. Two-sword style Jianyu Thunder God. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 82. A thunder suddenly rang out in the clear and cloudless sky. The violent thunder shook their hearts. The people who were fighting subconsciously raised their heads and looked at the sky. Two huge slashes suddenly appeared and collided with Whitebeard's attack. The space was constantly broken and reorganized. The two forces were in a stalemate, as if two gladiators were constantly wrestling. It is rude to come and go without reciprocating, Whitebeard. Chulan shouted. You give me 2 punches, and I'll return 3 blows to you. Take it. Crescent moon clashes in the sky. A sharper slash suddenly appeared, and the balance of the originally stalemate attack was directly broken. Whitebeard's attack eliminated the component, and Chu Ian's 2 slashes also disappeared, but the third slash did not disappear, and it's flying towards the Whitebeard below. Goo la 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 la, what a young man who doesn't know the heights of heaven and earth. Whitebeard did not punch again, but grabbed the big naginata standing beside him. It is also one of the 12 skills of the Supreme Big Sword, the famous sword Kongyunkai. He slashed at the slash in front of him. A huge slash. The blow was split by a sword. Chulan smiled and praised, you are indeed the strongest man in the world. Even without the shock fruit, your strength is not inferior to that of any great swordsman. Goo la 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 la, I didn't expect that there could be a young man like you among those losers of the Tianlong people. How about you, be my son? Chu Yan's face turned dark immediately. I'll do it as your sister. I'm just as good at being your father. Can you do it? If you don't know how to chat, don't talk. The first thing you ask someone if they want to be your son? Who did you learn this bad habit from? Is your childhood so lacking in father's love? You want a son so much, why don't you find a wife? Isn't it good to have a son? You are a whitebeard, why don't you even find a woman who likes you? Not yet? Chu Lan flipped in the air and landed firmly on the deck, facing the extremely tall Whitebeard, looking at him strangely. Many pirates have at least one woman on their ships, whether they are navigators or in any other position, whether it is a cutie or a Tyrannosaurus, at least there is a woman. But, on the Whitebeard pirates, except for the cross-dressing boss, everyone seems to be really, not a single woman. Whitebeard always accepts sons, never daughters. How? Are you discriminating against women? Or? Chu Lan suddenly took 2 steps forward, which frightened Marco on the neighboring ship into changing his shape and flying over to protect his father. I just heard him ask in a low voice, Whitebeard, do you have any special hobbies? Whitebeard. Marco fell directly to the ground. What, don't you want to? Whitebeard didn't understand and continued to ask. Oh, you are not worthy yet. Chu Lan sneered, raised her hand and knocked on his Kongyunkai, and said, for the sake of the fact that we are all members of the Supreme Data Key Association, I won't argue with you about this matter, but I won't do it in the future. If I hear this again, I will be really angry. Oh, I'm sorry, you have no future. You have decided to die here today, haven't you? Whitebeard's face became solemn and he lowered his voice, Boy, what are you talking about? Did I said wrong thing? Chu Lan smiled and said, then just think that I said some nonsense. However, there is no ship that can carry you in the new world. He held out 2 fingers and said, I'm sending you 2 messages. Remember to thank me. What? First, take good care of your son Skyard, he is in need of love. Second, Teach's ability is to eliminate the devil fruit ability of the espers he comes into contact with. Okay, that's all I have to say. This is not to help you, but I want to see more interesting developments. Next. Chu Lan smiled and waved to him. A fur tribe woman wearing a maid uniform suddenly appeared next to Chu Lan. She reached out and grabbed Chu Yan's shoulders. The 2 disappeared instantly. When they reappeared, they were already on the high platform. Chu Lan leaned back, sat on a large high-backed chair, and declared loudly, give me the greatest performance of this century. Behind him, girls in maid uniforms slowly walked onto the stage. They are of different races and have different weapons, but they all exude powerful power. Finally, a stunning figure walked onto the stage and sat in Chu Yan's arms in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Chu Lan clapped her hands, and a duck flying in the sky released its claws and dropped the unknown object it was holding at its feet. The lion landed and stirred up a cloud of dust. Warring State's eyes suddenly tightened. He was standing tallest and closest, so naturally he could see the clearest. There is no mistake, this person is Golden Lion Shiki. Sengoku exclaimed. His voice spread throughout the bay through the phone bug. The young pirates and soldiers were a little confused when they heard this name. They had no idea who this person was who could surprise Marshal Sengoku so much. Also, don't blame them. The Golden Lion himself is a legendary pirate. Because of the crimes he committed, the world government has long erased his existence from history. It is normal for people in the new generation not to know. However, those who have heard people who had the title of Golden Lion, especially those who had seen Golden Lion or even fought against him, were all shocked and speechless at this moment. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the man lying on the ground like a dead body. Shiki. Whitebeard's voice was low. Unlike others, he and Golden Lion had been partners in the same pirate group back then. Even though the two had always been at odds with each other, and no one in the Rock's pirate group was good. But after all, they are companions who have fought together. Now, seeing his body in the battle on the top, don't be too shocked. Didn't he escape from Impel Down 20 years ago? There was no news for 20 years, but he was still killed by the Navy. Has it been captured? Who did it? Whitebeard's eyes subconsciously looked towards the high platform, where the figure surrounded by maids, dominating the world like a king. Is our era really coming to an end? Whitebeard said so. Yes, it's over. Chulan nodded in agreement, opened her mouth to take the grapes peeled by Ellie, picked up her chin, and said, Tina, enough of the display, take him down. Remember, the devil fruit recycling work must be done well. Yes, Lord Chulan. The tall maid Tina grabbed the Golden Lion's body and disappeared in front of everyone. Fo ha 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 ha. Doflamingo laughed wildly. Golden Lion Chiji, the legendary pirate, once destroyed half of Marine Vando in the battle with Garp, the hero of Buddha's Warring States period, and yet he was killed at this time today. Recapture Malinfando. Interesting, so interesting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 83. Doflamingo looked up at Chulan, but could only see the sole of his foot, but this did not hinder his thinking. Celestial Dragon? Why didn't I receive any news about him? Chulan successfully escaped from danger, and the three generals naturally stopped wasting time with those minions. The three of them sat down again with their legs crossed. Akainu looked at the Golden Lion body that Chulan brought back. It was originally because of Chu Ian's adventure. And some of the dissatisfaction disappeared. The Golden Lion was the big criminal he had been trying to catch for so many years but could not find any trace at all, and Chulan brought back his body after just one trip to the sea. Akainu's love for Chulan attitudes, unknowingly, quietly change. This is really a big shot. Marco flew into the air and shouted loudly, don't stop, all attack, rescue Ace. Ouch. The pirates roared and charged at the defense line again. Block them, don't let the pirates rush into the bay. Roar. The Navy roared with the same roar, and faced the attacking pirates. The two sides fought fiercely again. The war started again after being blocked by Chulan for a moment. The morale of the pirates and Navy had different changes. Originally, because of the pirates, whose morale was high due to Whitebeard's attack, were slightly depressed at the moment. The Navy, whose morale was low due to the huge tsunami, saw Chulan fighting Whitebeard head-on without falling behind, and there were three generals guarding him behind him. Morale is extremely high. 8-foot Megatama. The well-known actor Porosalino jumped into the sky and attacked Whitebeard directly. The battle between Chulan and Whitebeard just now aroused the competitiveness that he desperately lacked. Marco got up from the embarrassment just now and transformed into a giant. The Phoenix blocked Kizaru's attack and fought with him. King Z took a break from busy work, moved a chair to Chulan, and asked teasingly, Master Chulan, I heard that you were captured by the Golden Lion, but worrying is bad. Chulan rolled her eyes at him, you're not worried about me, you're worried about your car, right? That can't be done, that can't be done. Ching Pheasant laughed and asked, aren't you ready to take action? Your battle-mate group is a fighting force that cannot be ignored. Chulan kicked the chair, almost knocking him and the chair down. This is a battle between your navy and the Whitebeard pirates. Do you want my maid to work for you for free? Dream. Ching Pheasant said with a smile, the navy will pay a corresponding price. That's impossible, I won't let my maid face such unnecessary danger. Chulan refused directly, raised her chin, and said, rather than fooling my maid, it's better to think about how to solve this ice cube first. This is all your fault. A huge iceberg like a small island fell from the sky. If it fell, the entire execution platform would be smashed into pieces. King Z waved his hand and said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, Sakazuki is here. Do you trust him so much? Although he and I don't get along, his strength is still trustworthy. You should indeed be trustworthy. After all, he is a man you cannot defeat." Chu Lan smiled and suddenly said, "After the war is over, I will vote for you when competing for the position of marshal." Qing Ji raised his head and glanced at the Warring States Marshal on the execution platform. The Warring States period was still alive and well, so why did it suddenly involve replacing the Marshal? This issue, does the Marshal know? The iceberg in the sky suddenly fell. Chu Lan was sitting the highest, so naturally he was the first one to be hit. The huge cold air contained in the iceberg hit his face, and Chu Lan couldn't help but let out a breath. Not to mention, he could actually see the mist. Just when the iceberg was about to fall, scorching heat suddenly rose from beneath his feet, and a huge fist made of lava rose into the sky and bombarded the huge iceberg. The iceberg that even the giants couldn't stop was shattered on the spot, and then evaporated into boundless water vapor. The huge lava did not stop attacking, turning into countless burning huge meteorites and smashing into the group of pirates below, and also towards Whitebeard's pirate ship in the bay. Several meteorites passed over Whitebeard and hit the ships behind, directly sinking a Moby Dick. One of the meteorites was heading straight towards Whitebeard. "You kid, you like setting fires so much, why not go home and light birthday candles?" Whitebeard stopped the meteorite with a knife, spit out a mouthful of saliva and extinguished the flames on it, and joked with a smile. "What, Whitebeard, don't you like grand funerals?" Sakazuki was tit for tat. For him, the word coward doesn't exist in the dictionary. His dictionary doesn't even call it chinois, it calls it justice. Arrogant brat. Whitebeard cursed, and the two of them faced off in a tacit understanding without taking action again. The solid ice surface suddenly trembled, and a huge shadow appeared behind the pirate fleet. Chu Lan didn't have to lower his head at all. He could see the huge figure of Little Oz at head level. Figure. Who the hell said Oz is human? Labor and management were the first to express dissatisfaction. Is there no such thing as orcs in this world? These big teeth, this body, and these arms are all standard orcs, okay. Except that he was not a slave, but was directly treated as a son. What's this? Monster, monster. What a huge body, the giants can't compare to him. The Navy soldiers who saw the scene were extremely desperate. Such a huge body was simply not something they could compete with. This was the first time I looked up at someone. Ah, yes. You will never be a match if you fight alone, let's fight together. The 8 giant lieutenant generals also sighed. This is a huge body that completely surpasses the giants. Even they cannot compete with him in terms of strength alone. Lieutenant General Giant, move out, your mission is to stop him. The Warring States period issued an order in time. If you want to resist the giant's attack, you can only use the giant clan to resist it. The gap is too big. Chu Lan shook her head. Although these giant Navy vice admirals are taller than ordinary people, they are too weak compared to Little Oz, both in strength and physique. He looked at the rush. Among the 8 giants who went to deliver food, Chu Ian's eyes lingered on the only female giant among them for a moment. She was pretty good looking, with a standard queen sister face and the best figure in One Piece, big. If, Chu Lan rubbed her chin and decisively gave up on that bold idea. Forget it, I'm not as long as her middle finger. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 84. As soon as they met, 8 giant lieutenants were lying on the ground. After being tortured by their incredible special abilities and brute force, they could only watch as Little Oz passed them and walked towards the execution platform. On the high platform, As little Oz got closer and closer to the execution platform, Chu Lan could even feel the hot breath coming out of his mouth. "How long has it been since you brushed your teeth? This smell, what a rush." Chu Lan covered her nose in disgust, picked up the fruit plate next to her and threw it down, yelling, "Big Bear, hurry up and get this little cutie away from me. Do you want to smoke me to death?" This behavior fully demonstrated in order to understand the misophobia that a noble celestial dragon should have. The big bear took 2 steps forward expressionlessly. The scar on his palm cut by Chu Lan had healed. As the air in front of him was continuously compressed, the cute air bear's paw gradually took shape. As his palm gently pushed forward, the small and cute bear paw impact with huge energy floated towards little Oz. What? Little Oz's head was stunned for a moment, and he didn't care. A real man must face the impact head on. The next moment, the cute bear's paw fell on Oz's huge body, and the unparalleled impact was released in an instant. Little Oz's disdainful expression stopped abruptly at this moment. His huge body was shaken by a powerful shockwave from the inside out. Blood spurted out from his body and he lost consciousness. The entire Gulf Coast was affected by this impact. The bottom collapses and shatters. "Oz!" Ace yelled in grief, and the huge sound resounded throughout Marineland, making Chu Ian's ears hurt. For the first time, he regretted why he had to sit so close. After suffering such a serious injury, Chu Lan's voice was not affected at all. Crossing his middle fingers and thumbs, he flicked his fingers. Ace's mouth seemed to be stuck with invisible tape, and he couldn't speak anymore. The world was quiet. Little Oz's huge body slowly fell, but in the moment he fell, the powerful spirit given to him by the giants allowed him to briefly regain consciousness. At least one Shishibukai must be eliminated. Looking at the several Shishibukai close at hand, Oz clenched his fist tightly, smashed the air with his huge fist, and hit the enemy in front of him hard. Unfortunately, wrong choice. Doflamingo looked at the huge fist above his head that covered the sky and let out a disdainful ha, unable to help but feel a trace of anger in his heart. There are obviously so many Shishibukai here, why did they choose to attack me? Are you looking down on me? Devil! Doflamingo's figure disappeared instantly. Little Oz's powerful fist fell, and the hard shore was directly smashed by this punch, but the enemy who should have been killed by this punch appeared behind him. Doflamingo Flamenco moved his fingers slightly, and invisible threads bound Oz's thighs. He only felt a slight chill in his right leg, and subconsciously asked, "My legs, what's wrong?" As soon as he finished speaking, Oz's thick right leg suddenly left his body, and the cut surface was flat, as if it had been cut off by a sharp sword. Oz could no longer support his huge body, lost his balance, and fell to the ground. Ace burst into tears and shouted desperately, but his mouth was sealed and he couldn't speak at all. The huge body slowly fell. Looking at the execution platform close at hand, Oz tried hard to reach out to grab it. Ace and him were looking at each other with tears streaming down their faces. Chu Lan couldn't help but be moved by this scene. That bastard Doflamingo actually chopped off his feet. "I want this guy's body." At Oz's feet, Moonlight Moria suddenly shouted angrily, and the emotion Chu Lan had just brewed was directly interrupted. "I'm crazy. Shadow Mage. Shadow Horn Gun." Mariah had no idea what he had just done. The shadow behind him stretched out and captured the shadows of many naval officers. Each of the small bats turned into sharp spears, about to penetrate Oz's neck. But right before the moment his spear took shape, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. Moria felt the crisis and subconsciously turned his head to look, only to see a fist slowly enlarging in his pupils. A huge shockwave lifted the stone slabs, all the surrounding broken ice and rocks were thrown away, and Mariah's body hit the ground, forming a huge pit with a diameter of more than tens of meters. "Your uncle's labor and management tissues have been taken out." Why are you making such nonsense? Chu Lan stepped on Moglia's deformed head. You are so weak and like to steal the show, you should die as soon as possible. Mariah was lying on the ground with blood on his face. He couldn't understand the current situation at all. He never thought why someone from the friendly forces would dare to attack him in front of the whole world. He just wanted a corpse and made a zombie soldier. That's it? Also, where am I weak? I'm the Shishibukai. However, at this time, his head was stepped on by Chu Lan tightly and he couldn't speak at all. Doflamingo saw Moria suddenly attacked. I remembered what Chu Lan said before, take him down. Remember, the recovery of devil fruit abilities must be done well. Could it be that this man also wants Moria's abilities? This is not good, it's done. Doflamingo slowly walked towards Chu Lan. Lifa and Ellie appeared instantly and stopped in front of him, preventing him from taking a step closer to Chu Lan. Heavenly Dragon, Saint Chu Lan, why have I never heard of your name? Doflamingo stood there and asked with a smile, are you really a celestial dragon? Chu Lan didn't answer his question, but asked, if you are a Tianlong, are you still qualified to talk to me like this? A pariah doesn't have any luggage when he sees me. This is really rude, dear Lord Celestial Dragon. Doflamingo leaned forward slightly and grinned, are you satisfied with this? Ignoring his provocation at all, Chu Lan asked with a smile, Xiaoming, do you want to restore your identity as a Tianlong? Doflamingo narrowed his eyes, and his eyes suddenly became dangerous. Stop joking. Haha, don't you want to? As long as I agree, no one dares to object to your restoration of Tianlong identity, Chu Lan said seductively. Doflamingo frowned, but he couldn't bear the slightest emotion in his heart. He has always been proud of his identity as a celestial dragon. Back then, his stupid father gave up his identity as a celestial dragon and made his family suffer. He remembered the experience very clearly. But when he took his father's head back to the holy land of Marijoya and tried to restore his identity as a celestial dragon, he was rejected. From then on, he swore an oath to dominate the celestial dragon. The world is turned upside down. But, if you can really regain your identity as a Tianlong at this moment. Doflamingo scratched his head, extremely confused. However, Chu Ian's next words immediately made his entanglement disappear. Chu Lan said, forget it, there are already a bunch of losers among the Tianlong people. I really can't accept one more person. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 85. Boy, do you dare to play tricks on me? The veins on Doflamingo's forehead were exposed, and the threads in his hands were flowing. If there weren't too many admirals watching, he would definitely tear the man in front of him into pieces. Ha ha ha, this is really not the case, Chu Lan laughed, not hiding her sarcasm, it's just a joke, don't be angry. Chu Lan threw Mariah at his feet and said, I'll leave Mariah to you. I don't care what you and the people behind you plan to do with his devil fruit ability. However, as a price in exchange. Chu Lan pointed at the unconscious little Oz, please help me sew his legs together first. It would be a pity for such an honest child to become a lame at such a young age. Ha 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 ha, interesting, really interesting. Doflamingo laughed loudly, tied up Moria and threw him aside. Although he didn't know why the man in front of him knew that he was connected with the top leaders of the world government, in front of Sengoku, he still couldn't take away his colleagues at will. For Moonlight Moria of the Kabuki. As for Chu Ian's revenge, he has already recorded it. If you have the chance to come to Dressrosa, I will entertain you warmly. I am looking forward. The situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. The two sides who were fighting fiercely just now, just because of a change, the rhythm of the entire battlefield suddenly changes. Accompanied by earth-shattering screams, a warship fell from the sky, attracting everyone's attention. The war was promised, but everyone came to watch the fun. Chu Lan was sitting on the high platform. When she saw the people falling from the sky, she turned to look at Hancock. He asked in a wicked way, "What do you think of the man in the straw hat in the sky?" Hancock looked obediently, his good-looking eyebrows furrowed. "All the stinky men in the world are the same, and I don't want to take another look at them. Of course Master Chulan is special." Chulan laughed twice and took her into his arms. Shiji took the initiative to close her eyes and let Chulan taste it. After all, the protagonist is the protagonist, and he is the kind without love. Even without Hancock's help, under the influence of some mysterious force, he successfully reached Impel Down and completed his escape. And this mysterious force is actually Chulan. Although Straw Hat was able to escape from prison and brought Crocodile and his team to Marine Fando, Chulan was really skeptical about whether he could successfully rescue Ace this time. As soon as the Straw Hat Boy entered the battlefield, he opened his mouth and said Ace, lest people don't know who he was and what he was doing, which immediately caused many people to exclaim. And Crocodile is a qualified villain, with clear goals and ruthless attacks. As soon as he came out of the sea, he went straight to Whitebeard and raised his hand to hook him. As a result, he couldn't beat the Straw Hat Boy back then, but now he is still inexplicably blocked by Luffy. Crocodile looked ugly. Straw Hat Boy, when we get here, our agreement will be completed. Why do you want to protect Whitebeard? Sure enough, is this Uncle the Whitebeard? The Straw Hat Boy had a strong sense of justice and said angrily, then don't attack him. Ace likes this uncle very much. Whitebeard looked at the little man at his feet. Are you here to save your brother? That's right. You know who the enemy is, right? If you act like this, you will die. Luosuo, you don't have to decide this kind of thing, Luffy yelled. I know, you want to be the Pirate King, right? He pinched his waist with both hands and declared confidently, I am the one who wants to become the Pirate King. Ha 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 ha. Chulan lay on the chair and couldn't help but hold her stomach and laugh. No, it's too funny. It's really embarrassing to watch this plot over and over again. Chulan wiped her tears. Aren't you here to save Ace? This has something to do with you becoming the Pirate King. Do you have to let the whole world know that you want to be the Pirate King? My dog wants to do it too. Do you want it? Are you going to chat with him? One moment you are saving people, and the next moment you are arguing with people over ideas. You are such a talent. Chulan sat up straight and watched Straw Hat jump off the boat. She didn't care. Crocodile, who wanted to assassinate Whitebeard, rushed towards the execution platform. Kizaru. Lord Chulan's hung, what are your orders? You go to stop the Straw Hat Kid, remember, let him be slightly injured, but don't let him lose the ability to fight. Chulan ordered. Kizaru tilted his head and asked, oh, Master Chulan is still interested in the Straw Hat Boy. How could we not pay more attention to the protagonist of this battle? Chulan smiled and said, go ahead. Since Lord Chulan's hung said so, how could I not take action? Kizaru's figure disappeared instantly and appeared in front of the Straw Hat Boy. Without any hesitation, his fingertips lit up and penetrated one of his shoulders directly. Oh, it hurts. The Straw Hat Boy suddenly fell on the ice, looked at Kizaru in front of him and shouted, you are the man in the Shampoo Islands. Don't blame me, a certain adult asked me to teach you a lesson. After Kizaru said these words, his figure disappeared instantly and returned to the high platform. He really didn't have much interest in this kind of weakling. Lord Chulan's hung, I will complete it according to your instructions. Well done. Chulan smiled and watched him stumble towards Tina, but Chulan preferred her real name, Rina. She has long, light pink hair parted in the middle, a sexy figure, and she likes to hold cigarettes in her mouth. She looks like a big sister, but she is actually a girl with a cute catchphrase. Chulan is because of her Narina only then did he become a little interested in her. Chulan touched her chin. Didn't she come to see a show? Why did it suddenly become a women's conference? Lord Chulan, are you interested in that colonel of the Navy headquarters? Behind her, Stella came to the high platform at some point. Following Chu Yan's gaze, she discovered Tina, who was fighting. Stella, why are you here? Chu Lan asked happily, didn't I ask you to stay in Marijoya? As your personal maid, serving you anytime and anywhere is my most important task. Stella smiled softly and looked at Hancock. Is this the pirate empress, Snake Lady, Boya Hancock? Sure enough, only a beauty like her can be worthy of Master Chu Lan. Hancock's face turned red when he was praised. Before she could be happy, she heard Stella say again. Lord Chu Lan, after the battle, do you need me to take the naval colonel back to Marijoya? I'm sure she'll be happy to have you visit her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 86. Chu Yan's eyes lit up for a moment, and she had to say that this idea was indeed a very good one. Especially the cute contrast between characters and personalities, this experience is simply wonderful. Just like Stella, she was obviously Chu Yan's personal maid, but she couldn't sleep with him at all. Because when Chu Lan sleeps, she needs to be awake all the time to maintain her ability to protect Chu Yan's safety. This is very exciting, and Stella has already made a private decision with someone for the rest of her life. Although it is definitely no problem for her to give up a certain man now, Chu Lan is relatively feudal. Moreover, Stella has a serious virginity complex. Although Stella is good-looking, she is not top-notch. It would be better to serve as a personal maid. Besides, there are many other maids in the castle, and Chu Lan has no idea at all. Hancock was still staring at him with his eyes wide open in his arms. It's okay, let's not accept it yet. Chu Lan smiled and closed Hancock's beautiful eyes, raised her hand and pointed at Hawkeye. My hawk, stop the straw hat boy, don't hold back. Hawkeye raised his sharp eyes and glanced at Chu Lan, pulled out the black knife from behind, and jumped down from the high platform. Don't you want to hold back? Good. Hey, did you understand something wrong? I asked you not to hold back, but I didn't tell you not to hold back. Straw Hat can conquer the world with just these two hands. Don't really chop it up, then the rest of the world will be boring. Thinking of this, Chu Lan was stunned for a moment. Wouldn't it be more interesting to have a world without Straw Hat? Wouldn't it be better if the world no longer has only one protagonist, but diversified development? Will One Piece fall into the trap? Who will do it? Immediately full of suspense. This world will be completely different from the world Chu Lan is familiar with, becoming more mysterious and unknown. Wonderful. Chu Lan clapped her hands and shouted an order. You don't need to keep your hands, and you don't need to keep your head either. Yes, Hawkeye faced the Straw Hat Boy head on. Tisk, 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 I really feel like a villain now. Chu Lan couldn't help laughing. I'm so bad, will there be other mysterious protagonists coming to attack me? Master Chu Lan is not a villain, but the real master of this world. Stella's rainbow fart slapped without any psychological pressure. The maids on the side nodded in approval. Hancock was in his arms, looking like it was natural. Chu Lan almost believed it. Hawkeye and Straw Hat Boy. The battle was naturally one-sided, especially after Hawkeye stopped acting at all. In just a few moves, Luffy had already received several cuts on his body. At this moment, the Whitebeard captains took action in time, using the foil ballista, stepping forward to catch Hawkeye's knife that was about to cut off Chu Yan's hands. Hawkeye, my hawk, the world's greatest swordsman, I have long wanted to compete with you. Luffy saw this, thanked him, and continued to rush to the execution platform with the wounds on his body. Chu Lan raised his eyebrows, raised his hand and pointed at Doflamingo, and ordered Doflamingo, you go, too, and kill the Straw Hat Boy. Doflamingo raised his head disdainfully and laughed. Fo ha 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 ha, Lord Chulan's hung, is this an order? Chulan nodded indifferently, yes. I don't like people giving me orders. What will happen if I don't listen? Doflamingo licked his tongue. He was originally an unscrupulous character. Otherwise, he would not have been able to directly bypass the Sengoku marshal and conspire with the people behind the world government. Are you asking him to obey other people's orders at this moment? Or is it someone who has just humiliated him? How could he obey orders from a Tianlong man? Chulan ignored him, leaned back on the chair and crossed his legs. Marshal of the Warring States period, I don't have the right to depose Kibukai now. Remove the Shichibukai. Now. Sengoku was stunned for a moment, and when he saw the unruly Doflamingo, he suddenly understood. Now is an important moment in the war. Chulan's hung, should we discuss this issue after the war? Chu Lan said coldly, I'm asking you, yes or no. Why are you provoking him for nothing? Don't you know his identity? Oh, you really don't know that you are no longer a Tianlong. Sengoku glared at Doflamingo and nodded helplessly yes. That's good. Chulan imitated the Empress's posture and looked down at Doflamingo. Choose, are you a hero for 1 minute or an obedient boy for 1 minute? Doflamingo gritted his teeth, his face full of anger. He knew that the man in front of him might really cancel his Shichibukai identity now. If it were normal, this identity would be cancelled. He could completely cancel it on his own. The kingdom will show off its power and will not be affected at all. But if it is cancelled now, he is already a big pirate. Without the protection of the Shichibukai identity, the navy soldiers around him will definitely take action against him. Not to mention Akainu. At this moment the old god is sitting next to him and staring at him. Akainu has long disliked him. He usually refrains from doing anything because of his identity as the Shichibukai. He will definitely not miss such a good opportunity at this moment. But let he listen to Chu Ian's orders, which he really couldn't accept. Even the top leaders of the world government only cooperated with him and did not dare anyone to give him direct orders. Because he held too many secrets. Aren't you afraid of forcing me to tell the secrets of the celestial dragons in public now? The secret of the Tianlong people? What secret, please tell me. Chulan snorted disdainfully, just tell me what you want to say. He's not afraid. Doflamingo's eyes widened and he couldn't believe what he heard. Hurry, the Straw Hat Boy is about to break through the defense line. Chulan took out her ears and said, if he breaks through the defense line, you will be useless. Doflamingo's eyes were red, and the infinite anger was about to overwhelm him. He had never been so wronged or threatened. At any other time, he would have overturned the table. But at this moment, he couldn't resist at all. Doflamingo lowered his proud head and said coldly. Yes. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 87. Doflamingo vented the anger he suffered from Chulan on Straw Hat Boy without any reservation. Straw Hat, who has not yet awakened his fourth gear and has not even mastered his haki, is nothing to Doflamingo. Cut it however you want. On the Moby Dick, Squard was reporting something to Whitebeard. Chulan raised her eyebrows. The show was about to begin. I wonder if Whitebeard listened to his suggestion. Is it an iron fist of love or a hug of love for his son? As soon as Chulan picked up the melon in her hand, she saw the long knife in Squard's hand stabbing straight into Whitebeard's body, without any hesitation or delay. It was so smooth. Entered his body. Damn it, you really didn't listen to my advice at all. Chulan couldn't help rolling her eyes. On the boat, Squard slowly pulled out his long sword. Whitebeard staggered a few steps and knelt on one knee. Squard, why? Squard trembled all over, pointed at Whitebeard and shouted, end this farce quickly. Whitebeard, didn't you collude with the Navy a long time ago? The lives of your Whitebeard pirates and ace will be saved, just in exchange for the heads of our 43 pirate captains. Marco stepped unsquared to the ground, and Squillard continued to shout, "I've always been alone, do you know why? Because all the partners who have fought alongside me for a long time died in Roger's hands. You should know how much I hate Roger. Even so, you have been hiding it from me, and I have become good friends with Ace. How dare you play tricks on me? We risk our lives to come here for Ace and the Whitebeard pirates. As a result, the Navy didn't just attack us. We were blocked by ice blocks on the left and right, and pursued by monsters like pacifists behind us. We were doomed." Whitebeard. Squard roared loudly. In the battlefield below, a large number of pacifists continued to fire lasers, and their targets were only pirates except the Whitebeard pirates. For a time, countless pirates were attacked by this. The simple tactic of sowing discord made them lose all confidence, and they all asked Whitebeard loudly. Chulan couldn't help but pick out his ears. This scene was too simple and brainless. Such a simple provoking method could succeed. Sure enough, all members are hot-blooded and all have no brains. Chulan admires Whitebeard very much, especially when dealing with this matter. He fully demonstrated his magnanimity and domineering attitude as the king of the world. Chulan leaned forward. He leaned forward and enjoyed Whitebeard's final performance. On the deck, facing doubts from everyone, Whitebeard did not explain. Instead, he propped up his seriously injured body, clenched his fists, and exerted his devil fruit ability, directly smashing the huge icebergs blocking both sides, opening a way out for all the pirates. Any explanation at this moment is not as convincing as the actual actions. Whitebeard shouted loudly. As pirates, you have to decide for yourself what you want to believe. Even if you are a stupid son, you are still my son and I love you just the same. Whitebeard gave Squard a big hug, jumped off the ship, and announced to all the pirates, "Those who want to follow me must abandon their lives and follow me." Chulan laughed and clapped her hands, not stingy with her own applause. Being able to enjoy the scene live was much more impactful than on the screen. Whitebeard is indeed a Whitebeard. His spirit is not weaker than mine. Stella on the side glanced at Chulan quietly, without saying anything to the master who never let her sleep at night. As Whitebeard jumped, all the pirates abandoned their previous suspicions and shouted, "Follow Whitebeard and advance under countless artillery fire." "Come on, Navy, how dare you play tricks on me? Dad, I will never doubt you again. Dad, I want to follow you for the rest of my life. Kill to avenge my father." Countless pirates shouted at the same time, causing a huge noise. Before their morale increased, the pacifists who were constantly pursuing were directly overwhelmed by the surging crowd. Marshal Sengoku was really frightened when he saw Whitebeard attacking personally. The shadow left on him back then is still there. Although the tiger is old, its power still exists. The Warring States period loudly ordered the entire army. Get ready to fight. The strongest man in the world is about to show off his power. The situation on the battlefield was ever-changing. Under the leadership of Whitebeard, the morale of the pirates was as high as ever, and the naval soldiers were beaten back steadily. But at the same time, the naval soldiers also took this opportunity to quickly retreat to the square, whether it was Whitebeard or not. The captains all felt something was wrong. Is the wall going up? Chulan glanced at the shaking ice cubes beside the wall, smiled and said to Ching Pheasant, "If we don't stop these pirates this time, it will be all your fault." Ching Pheasant. Is it my fault that my ice is hard? If I hadn't frozen the huge waves, the Navy would have been wiped out long ago. Okay. I won't bear this responsibility. Chulan leaned back and fixed the chair under her body. Darkness spread from Stella's body and enveloped the execution platform. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 88. Warring States felt the darkness spreading to his feet and did not make any unnecessary reaction. After all, Chu Lan was a Tianlong and a companion. He must have had his own considerations in doing so. It turned out that he was right in not stopping him, because at the next moment, he saw Whitebeard take action. Facing the attacking Navy giant Vice Admiral, Whitebeard turned his hands into claws, as if he had grasped the invisible space, and the whole world was pulled out of its form by his hands. The world lost its original balance at this moment. Warships, buildings, and even the entire sea and world all lost their direction at this moment. The world turns upside down. Huge deep chasms opened up in the frozen sea, and countless pirates and soldiers fell into them, not knowing whether they would live or die. Luffy was being brutally abused by Doflamingo when a crack suddenly opened under his body and he fell down. Chu Lan noticed the scene and couldn't help but be a little surprised. Could this make him run away? As expected of the protagonist? Doflamingo stood there and laughed, perfectly explaining what he meant by I come, I see, I don't conquer. However, Luffy's life or death is not important to Chu Lan. In Chu Ian's view, the protagonist of this war has always been Whitebeard. Straw Hat Luffy only makes a friendly cameo for the sake of the plot, especially since this is reality and not an anime, and Chu Lan cannot let him rescue Ace. If you ask why, this is pure bad taste. If everything develops step by step, wouldn't this world be too boring? Want to be the protagonist? At least have some brains. You fool, there is no way I can go this way. The whole world was tilting, and more than half of the houses in Malinfando were directly destroyed by this blow. On the entire battlefield, only Chu Ian's position was not affected in any way. Stella's Dark Guardian can withstand almost any attack. If it were a full-force attack from Whitebeard face to face, Stella might not be able to withstand it, but such a large-scale attack would not put much pressure on her. Countless Navy soldiers fell into the seabed, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. When the pirates saw that their father had destroyed half of the Malinfando, their morale suddenly reached an incomparable peak. They all screamed and rushed towards the enemy even more crazily. The defeated giant lieutenant general was not deterred at all, and he struck hard at Whitebeard's head with his 49-meter-long sword. In the name of the Navy's absolute justice, we will never let you pass here. Chu Lan sighed. He is another soldier who is ignorant of the world and has been brainwashed by the Navy's propaganda work. His head is obviously very big, but there is no brain in it. The size of his body is not enough for these legendary pirates. There was no difference. Whitebeard clenched his fist and punched the giant lieutenant general in front of him. The huge impact instantly destroyed his body. It was not over yet. It only took a little bit of power to kill the lieutenant general, and the remaining shockwave he ruthlessly smashed the city wall of the bay and rushed straight to the execution platform. He vowed to destroy it. Unfortunately, the three generals are not just actors. When necessary, they will still make some efforts. For example, now. The people work together to directly eliminate the huge oncoming impact. At the same time, after adding the seafloor stone, the extremely hard and huge surrounding wall finally broke through the hard ice and rose up. Ching Pheasant breathed a sigh of relief and ignored Akainu's contempt. As the siege wall rose, the balance of war returned to the Navy's side. Whitebeard struck hard, and although a big hole was blasted out of the wall, he failed to penetrate it. His face was ugly, and when the pirates saw that their father was helpless, they fell into despair. What should I do? Even my father can't break through this wall. We are surrounded. Look what's on the wall. It's a cannon, run. Countless artillery fire roared, and the pirates were blown away under the fierce bombardment. They were unable to make any effective counterattack. After all, they could not even see the Navy. It was really miserable to be beaten unilaterally. But this wasn't over yet. Akainu's lava launcher was fully activated. Countless meteorites shot out from his body, completely violating the law of conservation of mass. They turned into countless fire fists and fell from the sky, shattering all the ice. Even the Moby Dick was also destroyed. The pirate flag symbolizing Whitebeard turned into a ray of fire in the fire and slowly dissipated. From this moment on, the Whitebeard pirates were destined to decline. Damn it, you actually took down our flag. This is our ship, and we are going to sail in the new world on it. Damn Marines. Kill. Step on Oz's body and kill. The pirates stepped onto the only channel left by Oz's body, and rushed towards the square in the face of fierce gunfire. Chulan sat on the high platform, watching the pirates rush forward desperately, without any trace of, the excitement made me want to laugh. I didn't expect that you, Akainu, are also an actor. Such a large-scale meteorite fell from the sky, and it couldn't even hit it through the ice near the only gap. But even so, the water was released and the fierce bombardment still successfully blocked the pirates' offensive. The only one left out was the Straw Hat Boy Luffy, who was rushing at the front. A huge wave suddenly rushed into the sky, and the Jinbei current swept over the shoulder and swept the Straw Hat Boy. The body successfully crossed the tall defensive wall and landed in the square, face to face with the three generals. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person. Author, Da-ei Tianlong. Chapter 89. Under the high platform, the Straw Hat Boy faced the three Navy generals. He obviously couldn't defeat him, but he showed no fear. When he saw Ace kneeling on the high platform, he suddenly threw the boat pole in his hand towards the enemy and roared. Give Ace back to me. Akainu, the son of a dragon, is really fearless. Kizaru, it's really scary to be so young. Ching Pheasant, your persistence is worthy of praise, but this stage is still too early for you. After King Z finished speaking, he turned the flying pole into an icicle and threw it back. Facing the flying icicles, the Straw Hat Boy was not afraid and kept kicking out the slippers that were not worn out. Rubber rubber, stamp machine gun. The icicles shattered and turned into countless ice cubes and hit the three generals. Akainu and the three stood motionless, letting the broken ice hit them. This attack caused damage, 0. The cold air caused by the broken ice cubes blocked their sight. In an instant, the Straw Hat Boy directly turned on the second gear, used his head for the only time, and flew directly over the three generals and towards Ace on the execution platform. Flying high in the sky, Luffy noticed for the first time that, except for the three generals, there was a figure sitting closest to the execution platform. He roared, and regardless of who he was facing, he kicked out without hesitation and shouted. Get out of the way. Chulan looked at the fists kicked towards her and couldn't help but frown. I won't offend anyone unless they offend me. I'm just here to watch the show. It just adds a little obstacle to your rescue of Ace. Some interesting things. Not to mention that your simple plan to lure the tiger away from the mountain is impossible to succeed, but even if it can succeed, I have not taken action against you now, let alone stopped you. You actually took action against me first? It's simply, you ungrateful animal. What qualifications does a weakling who doesn't even have domineering power have to jump around in front of me? Even if it's a full cast, even if you are the son of a dragon, even if you are the biggest second generation in the whole pirate world. Is it my concern? To borrow a sentence from Enelu, I am the god of this world. Chulan was too lazy to take action against such an opponent. Liver. As the captain of the Pleiades star cluster, Li Fa certainly understood what Chulan meant. She said yes and her figure disappeared instantly. The next moment, her figure appeared above the head of the Straw Hat Boy, and the sledgehammer in her hand kept getting bigger. In the shocked eyes of the Straw Hat Boy, he hit it hard. Nanny! The Straw Hat Boy only had time to exclaim, and his whole body was hit head-on by the sledgehammer. The huge impact penetrated his body. Even if he had a rubber body, he couldn't stop Li Fa's domineering blow. The ground was shattered, a large pit with a diameter of tens of meters appeared. The Straw Hat Boy lay at the bottom of the pit, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Luffy. Garp, who was sitting cross-legged on the high platform, saw that Luffy was seriously injured by the hammer, and he could no longer remain calm. He asked, "Boy Hulan, you are not a navy, there is no need to take action." "Mr. Garp, don't be angry." Chulan responded cheerfully, "Not angry. The relationship between Chulan and Garp is actually not bad, especially when Chulan just came into contact with armed color domineering. She also studied with Garp for a while. After all, Garp's armed color, the level of domineering, is one of the best in this world, and the two are actually teachers and friends. Of course, Chulan has never called Master Garp. After all, once he is a teacher, he is always a father, and he doesn't want to just come into this world. Acknowledge yourself as a father. Even if, except for him, no one has this concept. Garp, no matter who takes action, it is right to prevent the execution." Sengoku angrily yelled at Garp. Naturally, he would not spoil Luffy and fully approved of Chu Ian's action. Garp was so angry that smoke was rising from his head. "Sengoku." Chulan happily watched the flames of war shift away from her body, and looked at the Straw Hat Boy below. She had obviously met him twice in the Chambord Islands, but in the end, he didn't leave any love behind. However, those who attacked him, the Straw Hat Boy has already paid the price, and Chulan does not plan to do anything more. After all, Garp still has a bit of a love interest. Of course, the premise is that he no longer messes with him. "Li Fa, come back." Chulan stopped him in time, and the second hammer that had already hit Luffy's face stopped abruptly. Li Fa turned her head in confusion. How could someone who dared to attack Lord Chulan let him continue to live in this world? "He is the grandson of Mr. Garp, please spare his life this time." Li Fa hesitated for a moment, then slowly put away the hammer, glared at Garp fiercely, and turned back to Chulan. The morale that had just been boosted by Luffy flying over the high platform was instantly wiped out by this wave of blows. Who is that person? Not only was she able to withstand her father's attacks, but even his maid was able to defeat the Straw Hat Kid with one strike. What on earth is this Tianlong man going to do? There are 3 more generals and there are Tianlong people, what should we do? Whitebeard also looked at Chulan, who was sitting in front of the execution platform with a leisurely expression. It was obviously a tragic war, but he seemed to be watching a farce. In this case, whether it was the general or the Warring States period, even he had to fight in person. Whitebeard remembered the 2 things Chulan reminded him. He didn't pay attention to it at first, but now the first thing has indeed happened, and the second thing. It's probably true too. His eyes swept across the battlefield and could not find Tikai's figure, but he did not dare to take it lightly. "Have you seen it all?" Chulan's hung, "Can you tell me what the outcome of this battle will be?" "No, no matter what the outcome is, I will save my son." Whitebeard straightened his chest, his expression became determined again, and a large ship emerged from the bottom of the sea and rushed directly into the square. Whitebeard roared angrily. "Guys, destroy the navy and rescue Ace. I just want to be a quiet Tianlong person." Author, Dai Tianlong. Chapter 90. Of course Whitebeard didn't guess, but took action directly. Naturally, Chulan would not explain. Being able to send the strongest man in the world away with his own hands would be a truly supreme experience. Chulan waved his sword, and the two continued to fight together. Meanwhile, outside Malinfando, while everyone's attention was immersed in this war, a group of people sneaked into Marinavando. Who else could it be if it wasn't Whitebeard's group? With the help of the huge body of the evil wolf, several people successfully climbed onto the walls of Malinvando, which was about to become ruins, hiding in the shadows and watching the battle on the field. Then, Blackbeard was confused. "Now, who is the person fighting with Whitebeard on the field? It's not Akainu, it's not Aoji, it's not Sengoku or Garp. How come there is a young man I've never seen before who is fighting Whitebeard back and forth? Does any of you know? Blackbeard subconsciously turned around and asked, and then shook his head mockingly. What do these people know? They are all prisoners who have been imprisoned in LV6 for who knows how many years. Let alone people they don't know, they will know them there. I can't even read the newspaper. It can be said that I don't know anything. I know. I know it too. Just when Blackbeard was about to arrest a naval soldier for questioning, the criminals responded in unison from behind. Blackbeard turned his head, somewhat disbelieving. How could they know about someone he didn't even know? Is he also a LV6 criminal? Blackbeard asked tentatively. This man doesn't look like a criminal. Atrina shook her head and said he is not a criminal, but he is a more terrifying man than a criminal. Horrible? Blackbeard sneered. Even the most ferocious female prisoner, Crescent Moon Hunter, said this man is scary. What is his identity? Katarina shook her head and did not answer his question. Blackbeard turned to look at the evil wolf. Because he was the largest, you could see him by looking up. The evil wolf saw Blackbeard and wanted to ask him, so he buried his head. He went into the water and didn't want to talk at all. Blackbeard was speechless. In the end, it was Ibero Pizarro who revealed Chu Ian's identity. After all, he was the king of evil. Even if he was beaten, he would still be reckless. We were let out of Impel Down just a few days ago. What? Released Impel Down once? How can it be? Who did it? Why? Just let a few of you go. A series of questions popped up from Blackbeard. You are all the most ferocious criminals in LV6. How could Impel Down City release you? The evil king's simple brain organization was interrupted. He hesitated and froze in place, not knowing whether to solve the question first or the person who asked the question first. That was a Draco. A few days ago, he released us and asked us to fight Douglas Barrett. If we could win, he would let us go. Katarina explained the cause and effect, shook her head, and sighed. It's a pity. What's a pity? It's a pity that we failed, because we didn't trust the Navy at all, and we couldn't defeat Douglas Barrett at all, so we decided to find an opportunity to kidnap this Draco and then use him as a hostage to escape. Blackbeard asked with interest. Did you succeed? Success? Ah. Katarina sneered. If it succeeds, can you still find us in the infinite prison? She shook her head and continued. It failed. The drunkard successfully sneaked up on this Tianlong man. Just when he was about to succeed, an accident happened. Who is the drunkard? What accident? Blackbeard asked. The drunkard dies. Katarina looked at Chulan, who was still fighting back and forth with Whitebeard. Thinking of that knife, she was still a little afraid. Just when he was about to attack this person, he was killed with a knife, and the whole person was split in half. At first, I thought that this might be the result of us being exhausted after a night of fighting with Barrett and being caught off guard by the drunkard. But now that we see that he can fight like this with the legendary Whitebeard, I definitely underestimated his true strength. A celestial dragon. Blackbeard stared at Chulan with burning eyes. There is such a strong man among the Tianlong people. If I can turn him into my companion. No, impossible. Blackbeard quickly shook his head and threw this unrealistic idea out of his mind. Looking for a Tianlong as a companion? Not to mention that he would be directly chased by the three generals as soon as he took action. If he didn't get Zhen Zhen, before the fruit, he didn't dare to do this kind of thing. The Tianlong people would never follow him to become pirates. As world nobles, they enjoy all the rights in this world. How could they become pirates with him? He is doing it. What dream? The celestial dragons are not something I can covet.